Hey guys, welcome back to Anime Sekai Podcast. I'm your host, Mikan.
And I'm your host, Ichigo. Hey, guys.
Hey guys. Join us this week as we talk about what does it take to be considered a true anime fan? Hey guys, what's up?
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, best day of the week.
Or happy day, whatever day you're listening to this, if it's not Friday.
That's true. Hopefully it is a Friday
Yes.
afternoon. That's what I wish for everyone,
I wish every day was Friday.
honestly, for real. So, this week we're going to be diving in to talk about what does it take to be, I guess, considered a true anime fan, which I
Mhm.
think could be a little different for everyone. But, well, I want to hear, Ichigo, what you think. What is your opinion? Do people have to watch the classics? Like, do they have to watch a certain amount of anime?
That's a really good question. So, for me personally, I think maybe it depends on the classic because everyone's a different generation of an anime fan. So
Mhm.
everyone's classic, quote unquote, is different. So for us, classics would be like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, at least for our generation, and possibly One
The
Piece.
the big 3.
Or, yeah, I was going to say any of the big three. But I think for this next new generation of,
Mhm.
especially all the new anime fans that emerged during COVID, classics might later on down the line be considered as like Demon Slayer, JJK, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So I don't want to say yes to classics being a quote unquote requirement for anime fans. However, what I will say is I don't think newer generations of anime fans and or people who, regardless of which generation that they're in, if they're just new to watching anime in general, I don't think they should knock anybody's classics. So for example,
Mhm.
you know, somebody who became an anime fan based off of Demon Slayer or JJK, those anime fans should not knock Full Metal Alchemist fans. There
Yeah.
should be no disrespect,
Mhm.
but I also feel like I shouldn't have to prove that I'm an anime fan if I haven't seen the big three either.
Yeah.
Which for me personally, I ain't finished any of the big three.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to kick me off of the anime fan bus train, whatever you want to call it, then that's fine. But I mean, I'm still considered a heavy anime fan without watching any of the big three.
Yeah.
Now, am I gonna watch any of the big three in the future? Um, Probably not. It's too late for me. But
Never say never.
it's too late for me. But I don't think that I'm any less of an anime fan
We'll get you on
if
One Piece
because of
eventually
it. Good luck.
when it finishes. If we'll both still be here when it
Good
does.
luck.
I know I feel what you're saying. Because yeah, age difference and obviously when you were born is gonna things like the classics will be different for you compared to your parents' generation or,
Oh yeah.
your older people, older siblings or whatever.
hmm The diehard anime fans that emerged from the 90s, like we're still watching anime. When
Yeah.
we get older and have children of our own, we gonna start them out with the classics that we grew up
Oh,
on.
yes.
So
100%.
I don't know if you
See.
remember the video of me having my daughter watch Sailor Moon at
Mhm.
like a year old.
Yes. See, I'm telling you, if people have, like, a newborn, just watch a single episode of One Piece every day,
No,
and then you'll be good to go. They'll be like a toddler by the time you finish.
that baby will not remember any of the beginning
That is
episodes.
fine. They can start again. I mean, granted, they'll probably still be pretty young by the time you
Yeah,
finish anyway, so they can they can start over.
that's the cool thing about the generation of anime fans who we now have children of our own is for me, it's a bonding experience. So, my daughter, the first anime that she and I watched together, where she was singing the theme song with me, was Sailor Moon. And it was just a perfect way for us to just like kick back on the couch, relax, have some juice, and just watch anime. So, what about you? Is it a requirement for anime fans to watch any of the big three?
Um, no. I think, particularly even a lot of the, like, people I've watched and listened to who know a lot about anime, they might be a little bit more, I would say more like on the classic side, like even more so than like the big 3. A lot of people who are critical about anime, I feel like they're not really the typical shonen type or,
Mm,
shoujo type. They're more into like complex stories, at least from my experience.
mm,
Things that are psychological or I don't know. I think the people I just follow who are a bit more critical or have a lot of knowledge about anime's background don't typically watch the mainstream. I would say like I'm gonna call it mainstream stuff per se.
mhm,
So I don't think to be an anime fan you have to. I think you should know about them. For instance, if I meet somebody and they don't know, like they're like, "Oh, I love anime," da 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 da. And then maybe I'll get into the big 3 and they don't know a single one of them, then I'm like, "Oh, you must be new." Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have not even heard of the names or even, like, mainstream ones, like, if I go Demon Slayer, JJK, like, they know none of those, then I'm like, "What are you watching?" Okay, like, that's fine, you don't gotta watch those, but the fact that you don't know a single one, like, any
Yeah.
of even the newer, like, popular ones, I'd be like, "Okay, maybe you just watch anime more casually," is what I would
Mhm,
consider somebody like that. But I think for a diehard fan, I don't think you have to watch, like, the big 3 or any classics, but in my opinion, I feel like the longer and the more anime you have watched, a lot of times people who have seen a lot of anime end up watching the big 3, if that makes sense.
mm,
It's almost like I've seen so much, okay, now I have to know what everyone is talking about with these really popular or classic animes. I feel like that's
right,
what happens a lot of times. Um But I don't personally, I just don't consider that you would have to watch them. I
mhm,
think more so for me, it's maybe quantity of anime consumed, but also the type of anime that you watch, like maybe a certain genre or whatnot, um, would, in my mind, differentiate you from a typical like casual watcher versus a fan. And then there's also diehards.
right,
So I think there's a bit of a distinction though that does exist, but that's more so
mm.
than not just watching anime, but also having knowledge about anime. It's very different. It's very different.
What do you mean by, like, knowledge? Do you mean, like, if there's 3 tiers, casual watcher,
Mhm.
diehard, and then fan,
Like a fan. Mhm.
then
So for me, like the casual watcher would just be someone, "Oh, I saw this on Netflix," I just noticed it on
mm,
Netflix. I watched it. I've seen like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 animes. They
yeah,
were good. They were good, but I just watched here and there. And then I would say anime fan. I personally consider myself an anime fan.
mhm.
Granted, I've probably seen way more anime than even diehards. At this point, I've watched probably 500 plus animes in my anime career. But, I've definitely slowed down because the majority of anime I've watched was middle school, high school, like, I watched a lot of anime. Um, but my knowledge, is more so I've seen a lot, so I know a lot of anime. I feel like
Mhm.
people who are diehards or really understand, they know the producers, they know the background where the story came from, they know like if it was a manga, if it was an anime, like they know like what studio it came from, like all the details, that kind of stuff. I feel like that's more like diehard level.
Mm,
They
I
know
see.
the ins and outs of like not just anime, but like how it's made, like all the details of it. That's what I consider
Mhm.
maybe more so Die Hard
I see. Okay, I would actually
for me.
agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because now that you're putting it that way, I'm like, okay, well, if a casual watcher is wanting to get up to that fan level or diehard fan level, is there a specific anime that you are like, well, I would recommend that you watch it because it's just classically that good? So, for example, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I think, is something that I think you might recommend to somebody who's a casual watcher that may be trying to quote unquote level up in how much anime that they watch. And then for
Mhm.
me, it might be something like Rurouni Kenshin or Inuyasha or even Sailor Moon,
Yeah.
just because those, I think, to us are considered quote unquote classics, but even outside of the classics, they're just considered really good anime that should be shared.
Yeah.
So,
I do agree. I think there are some for me, I would if I'm doing it in like really simple terms, I would just be like, just watch some of the more popular classics, basically.
mhm,
Some 90s, early 2000s. I do think that was like a really big wave. Although nowadays I feel they just have better like anime, like more steady, good anime. But I definitely do think like the classics, particularly things like Evangelion, like you said,
mhm.
Rurouni Kenshin, like stuff that is, I don't know, brings like that nostalgia, but kind of also like FMA, like things that everyone has basically almost everyone and their mother has seen,
Right,
you
right.
know, and they're
Mhm,
regarded and rated very highly.
right.
But I
Mm.
also understand, like I would not start off somebody who's a casual watcher straight away to Full Metal because it's so long. I think that's another thing. Like if it's extremely long, it is a bit hard to like get into.
Mhm.
But in order to, I think, be more so considered a fan or like diehard, I would expect that they have seen those like, I don't know, top 50, one of them, animes at that point. I would
Yeah.
expect maybe more than one, but yeah, something like that.
I would see that. It's kind of hard for me as an anime fan to tell somebody else you're not a true anime fan because you haven't seen Sailor Moon, or you're
Mhm.
not a
Yeah.
true anime fan because you haven't watched this show. Like you've only seen, just the
Yeah. I, d-
mainstream
I don't
stuff.
I don't like it when people do that, honestly.
No, but it's actually I feel like a lot more common than we think. You
Oh yeah,
know,
it
like
is.
and I think because anime is starting to hit mainstream, that's why we're starting to see it. There was such a huge boom during COVID-19 that you now have a lot of people who have ventured into the casual anime, and then you have anime fans and or some, but not all, diehard anime fans who see the flow, the abundance, the increase in these casual watchers. And so now they're like, okay, we're going to get you guys all the way up to our level. And because we're
Mhm.
going to get you on our level, you can't be considered an anime fan unless you've seen XYZ. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what constitutes somebody, regardless of what level they're on, or like even if they're new to it, what constitutes us as fans telling other anime fans like, I'm not going to consider you a true anime fan because you're not basically like me.
Mhm.
Because to me, that gives, oh, I read the book and the book was so much better than the movie.
Mhm.
It's like book fans telling movie fans, "Oh, you're not a real fan of the work because you
Mhm.
only watched the movie, you didn't read the book." And I'm like, "Can I be a fan of
The movie.
the movie?" Like, what if I didn't know, like you said, what if I didn't know that there was an original book to it?
Mhm.
The movie
Yeah.
looked interesting, so I'm now considered like, but I liked it so much that now I'm a fan. Now, do I wanna go back and read the book? Maybe not, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there are a lot of people out there like that.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
feel like with anime fans, there's a flux, or not a flux, there is a wide variety of different types.
Oh, yeah, especially as it becomes more, mainstream because it was and I would still consider it still a slightly bit of a niche market, but
Mhm.
now it's definitely becoming like, I mean, you could already say it's become mainstream,
Yeah.
but with that transition, there's gonna be a lot more just casual people because when it's niche, it's really only people who are fans or diehard fans, because when it was such a small market, you have to like look for it and you have to know it already to be able to watch it and find it. Meaning
Mhm.
you're taking time out of your day to literally go into the internet and search for this thing, meaning you clearly obviously really enjoy it. But
Right.
now anyone can just go on Netflix, go on Hulu, go on whatever Disney Plus, like, and be like, "Oh, what is this? Let me just watch it." It's like a different world
Mhm.
now. So the aspect that you can be casual about it is so much more greater than it used to be. And I think that goes for a lot of other media. We see with other like Asian dramas as
Mhm.
well, like
K-dramas is in
K-dramas.
particularly. Mhm. Or in
Like it's just
particular,
people
yeah.
can just watch one. Doesn't mean they're a fan of like K-dramas per se. They just, "Oh, this one was popular. Let me watch this," kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's just become more accessible.
Well, especially after the boom of,
Oh, Squid Game?
yeah, Squid Games.
Mhm.
I wanna say there were probably a lot of people who, because of Squid Games, mind you, I don't know, so I can't speak for these people, but I wanna say just like COVID, during COVID times, Squid Game comes out, people fall in love with Squid Games, and then start searching for other similar Korean dramas to kinda
Yeah,
get that
absolutely.
same feel. And
Mhm.
so, just like with anime, Demon Slayer comes out, Jujutsu Kaisen comes out, Bleach comes back out with another season, and all these other
Mhm.
anime that come out during COVID, and there is a boom. So now people are like flocking to see what other types of similar shows that they can get to that remind them of the show that brought them into the genre in the first place.
Yeah.
So now for my, I feel like for my whole shoujo fans, like
Mhm.
fans of that particular anime genre, I feel like Sailor Moon has to be a given. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the only thing I will say. Sailor Moon is a given. If you are a huge fan of like my whole shoujo type, I feel like you have to watch Sailor Moon at least once
I
because
don't
it's so
know,
iconic. But it's
'cause
such a classic for that particular
I
genre.
I
Like you think
agree.
my whole shoujo, you think Sailor Moon or
But I
Cardcaptor
will
Sakura.
say, I think that's for a lot of women, because there's a lot of guys
Yeah,
who are into mahou shoujo, but a lot of them, they've never watched Sailor Moon. It's more like what I'm trying to think, Madoka or like what else? What else is like those popular?
like the darker
But you know what I mean?
versions.
Like
Not
darker,
darker
but also
versions, but
more, like a cutesy
mhm,
versions that they've seen is like a huge niche market, like,
right.
for the guys out there. So I think it just depends on who you ask, because I feel like everyone would have a different answer.
Everyone might have a different answer, but I'm sticking with what I said. I'm
You
staying by
stand
what.
by your Sailor
That's the
Moon.
only thing. That is the only thing I will come on here and say. Like, if you are a s-
Die Hard
d-
Mahou Shoujo, you better watch
diehard my
Sailor
whole
Moon.
shoujo
That's
fan,
what Ichigo wants to say.
I feel like yeah, exactly. Sailor Moon has to be on your list. It just has to be. It has to be.
I mean, that's what the thing is, so for instance, like if someone asked me, what would be like the classic shonen that you would think people should watch? For me, it's like if you've seen a lot of shonen and what I'm talking about is if you like that very cliche, basic, I don't know if it's basic, but like the basic type of shonen, I have to say, like, you have to watch One Piece. Like, that is, like, the
Mm,
pinnacle and epitome of, like, what, in my mind, is shonen, if that
yeah.
makes sense. But the thing is, it's so long, so I totally understand if people are just
Yeah.
like, "No, thank you." It's just
It's
not for
so
everyone.
long.
It
But
is.
here's it could be so for me when I think of like classic shonen, for me personally, I think of Inuyasha.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
don't
interesting.
think of yeah, like I don't think of um Rurouni Kenshin, I don't think of One Piece, I don't think of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. Inuyasha is the first shonen that comes to my mind because although I was a huge fan of it, I met a lot of people who were huge fans of it. And it was either, for me growing up, it was either Dragon Ball slash Dragon Ball Z or Inuyasha. Technically, my
Wow.
classic should be Dragon Ball Z because it's 100% a classic. Like, it got a lot of guys into anime, but I also feel like Inuyasha did just as well, bringing people into the
Mhm.
anime community.
Interesting. Like, for me, Inuyasha was, what is it? Because it had, like, romance, I always looked at it as, like, a little bit of a like, a off-brand shonen.
Well, yeah, I guess I could see that too, because
Because
if
I feel
that's
like
the
especially
case
back in the day, the demographic, it was, like, very also popular. I feel like compared to, like, the other shonen genre, it had, like, a larger female fan base.
it did. It did. And I think specifically because of Kagome and Inuyasha's relationship, and then you've
Mhm.
got in the relationship between Sango and Miroku, it's like Inuyasha still had a lot of fighting, but there was like
Yeah.
this back end romance aspect of it too. And I guess if you think of it that way, or excuse
Yeah.
me,
I
if you
mean, it is
say it that way, then yeah.
yeah. I mean, it is shonen because it's the structure is very
Hmm.
shonen. It has a male technically a male character lead, although I was kinda like, "Is the lead technically Kagome?" Like, but either
The
way,
show's named after Inuyasha, so I'm gonna say
yeah,
nah.
so it should be. Um, but it was basically shonen with heavy romance, which wasn't
Yeah,
really what at least from the back then shonen, it wasn't the case for a lot of shonen back then.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Because if I think about it, Rurouni Kenshin really only had like one or two kind of relationships
Yeah.
that were well, really one. It was um Kenshin and Kaoru. They were
Yeah.
the main ones, but like Full Metal Alchemist, the original,
Mhm.
and even Brotherhood, like the only real romantic relationship
Yeah,
for that whole
it's like a
shonen
side
was
thing.
Edward and
It's
Winry, right, it was a side
yeah,
thing,
but
yeah.
it wasn't even like, I wouldn't even consider categorizing it really as romance 'cause there was no, like, theme of them basically being together per se.
Mm,
Even Naruto, like, although maybe Shippuden in the end, but even then, there's no Bleach,
yeah,
same thing, there's not really a there is, like, characters that are, like, into each other, you could say, but there's
mhm,
no category like, there's just it doesn't categorize, I would say, as romance versus, like,
right,
Inuyasha. It was actually about the 2 people developing that relationship, you know?
right. That makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I always put that one as, like, a it had a special category for me. But
Uh,
if you did have to say, like, if you did categorize, let's say you categorized, like, the casual and then a fan and diehard, what
mhm.
would you say is the one anime it doesn't even have to be an anime that you saw, but what would you categorize as saying, like, "This is the anime you would have to watch?" Maybe, like, either 1 or 3, I don't know, however many you feel, but what is the 1 to 3 anime that you feel you would have to watch to be in that category? Like, if you just felt like you were categorizing it.
If I was just categorizing it, I think it would depend on the genre, and it would
Mhm.
depend on how long it is. So for a casual watcher, I may suggest something like a romance, so like um, My Little Monster or Umaru.
Uh-huh.
So like something that like almost like you can put it on in the background if you just want to chill and watch something funny,
Mhm.
something like that. I would put in the casual watching section. For a fan, I might recommend something like A Sign of Affection or Wotakoi, which is the otaku. It's hard to fall in love with an otaku
Yeah.
anime because those types of shows just draw you in so
Mhm.
much to the storyline that it makes you want to watch more. And then for Die Hard, whew, I feel like Full Metal Alchemist slash Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood would be on my list in the Die
Okay.
Hard section.
Mhm.
I mean, quite honestly, I think if you're at the Die Hard level, you're gonna watch FMA or FMAB
Or that's what you would consider,
regardless.
like, you would have had to watch FMA to be considered a diehard kinda thing. Like, if we're
Ye-
categorizing it specifically.
yeah, if we're
Mhm.
categorizing it specifically, then yeah, I would say Full Metal Alchemist slash Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because
Mhm.
for a long time, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood held the number one anime
Yeah,
title
that
on
was
my
probably the
anime
most
list.
popular. Yeah,
And so I think like
and
if
s
you are a die-hard anime fan, you would have seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mhm.
I think it'll shift as time moves on,
Yeah,
but 100% I think Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is going to be in that list
I
of
agree.
die-hard.
If we're talking about, like, someone our age specifically, I would also probably if we're, like, categorizing it, I'd be like, a diehard would have to watch Full Metal Alchemist. If
Mhm.
I'm talking about right now in this time and point, anyone who's watching anime, anyone who's born, I would say honestly, I would say Jujutsu Kaisen because I'm like,
Mm.
if you are not watching Jujutsu Kaisen in this point in time, you are probably not I would not probably put you on that scale of, like, being really into anime.
Yeah, I mean quite honestly, I wasn't going to watch it until
Yeah.
you had me watch it. I mean, like, my own husband
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "You gotta watch this show, you really enjoy
Yeah.
it." And I was like, "Nah, I ain't watching it."
But I almost feel like even if, like, shonen is not your type, like, someone who's, like, so crazy into anime, knows all the news and knows all the I would expect them to be like, "Okay, everyone's into this. I gotta see what's up." Even if I don't like shonen,
Mhm.
like, I have to s that's what, like that's, like, my mentality behind it more so. It's like, it's not that you even care for shonen, it's just, "Oh, I gotta know what everyone is talking about because
Right.
I just love anime and I keep up with anime and I gotta see it." Like, that's how I would kinda categorize it.
Mhm.
So, that would probably be my pick, simply for the fact that it's, like, super popular and always trending and stuff like that.
Well, and stuff like that, I feel like there's so much hype and there's, like, so much coverage around very popular anime. I typically wait until the season is over, and then I wait
Yeah.
even longer after that because then the hype dies down and I don't see as many spoilers. So then I'm not influenced by somebody else's opinion on every single episode.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like with considering if you are a fan or not, there's just levels to the fandom. As with any fandom, there's levels to the fandom. You're either a casual watcher, you're a fan, or you're like over the not over the top, but you're a diehard fan.
Mhm.
And
It
I don't
it
think any
depends.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
you should have to watch a certain anime to be considered on any of the tiers,
Mhm.
you know.
And, I mean, everyone's tier is gonna be also different,
Mhm.
what other people might categorize differently, other people might consider certain things to be higher and more sophisticated, like, some people are straight up like, "Shoujo? Shonen? Ew, like, that's such childish
Yeah.
anime, like, you have to watch more of the sophisticated stuff and, like, all that." So it really all just comes down to, preference and what
Mhm.
people themselves, like, deem as their own, I guess, top tier and, how they view what is a fan and what is not. And but at the end of the day, anime is just fun, you know? It's meant to be watched and meant to be enjoyed
Yeah. And it's also meant to
by
be
everyone.
shared, but be shared in a positive way. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
there's different levels, and each level should be respected in its own way.
Absolutely. And I mean, we just always want people to enjoy anime, you know? That's why we love talking about it. But you guys, we want to hear from you. We want to know like how you guys categorize fan, like do you differentiate between casual and, super fans, or how do you guys look at it? And what do you guys think would categorize as a diehard fan if there was such a category? Let us know in the comments. And of course, if you guys want to also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime Sekai Podcast, you can also find us on YouTube as well. And we will be here next week also. So stay tuned next Friday. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. See you next week.